Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to yet another edition of the Lambom Show. Today is Wednesday, June 9th, 2021, and we are back to our regular series on African immigrants, African development. We apologize for the last 2 weeks. We have not been able to get our Wednesday show on. So Okpa traveled, in fact, to Maryland, and I could not catch up with him because he had a very charged schedule. Last week there was a mix-up, but here we are today. And today's topic is kind of, as always, Okpa writes almost every day and will pull out something. And he sent me something which I found very interesting. We have actually touched on that topic in this show a couple of times, but today we really want to dedicate it. And I chose as topic Africans and PhDs or waste. And this is following up from what Sir Okpa had written about PhDs, and he just said Blacks in the US have more PhDs than any other minority groups. So I would invite people, maybe, I don't know, maybe I should just read through the whole thing for those who may not. Let me just read through it so that others can. Blacks in the US have more PhDs than any other minority groups. Just visit their neighborhoods and or establishments run by them and see if having a PhD is reflected in their living standards. In the same vein, visit Nigeria, land of doctors and doctorates in between quotation marks, where parading such papers is a way to show up marginal contents, and one can see why blood does not lie. Germany has the least number of high-degree population, but it is a much developed economy than India, which has the highest number of degreed persons in the world. When education cannot or would not transform one's mind to mentally migrate to a higher plane, it is for glamour. I like Missouri State's motto, show me. No one inherits certificates and degrees, but one sure can inherit what is produced as a result. Hug your certificates and degrees. At the end, it is like no one got education, given how the Black race approaches life despite piles of glamorous certificates and degrees, looking for help and wanting to be given something. Now I'm ready to shoot. So Okpa, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So what inspired you to put out that piece?
Something that inspires me to get people angry. So, you're just part of my DNA. After, just observation. I know a bunch of PhD people. I mean, it's a blanket statement, but there are exceptions. But you wanna believe that the more education somebody gets, at least you see the way they behave. Ability to solve problems, be logical, reason well. But in terms of the Africans, I mean, you see them get that PhD and they just sometimes behave like they never went to school. Not in the way they communicate, not in the way they marshal out their views. It's just more like, hey, they come to your party. If you don't address them as doctor or chief, whatever it is, usually they get angry. So I'm saying, is that the purpose of going to school? Acquiring this number of degrees, because I mean, for you to have a PhD, you've done a bachelor's and master's. So if all that ends up just more like, hey, getting mad, then is it worth it? Even America, I don't know. I mean, America has 9% of the population.
Yes, that's one part of it that I did not include there, but yes.
Yeah, only 9% of American population have 4-year college degree. About 22%, college education, i.e. they went, they never finished. But I mean, it's a culture that puts weight on production productivity. What are you gonna do? You know, I threw in that show me thing by Missouri, but show me. Um, we haven't been able to do it. And then if you drill down into it, if you were to go and get 1,000, Nigerians, Cameroonians, what is it called, Kenyans, and see what they have PhD in, you find out that the majority of them just have PhD in subjects that has nothing to do with anything, just because they just want to be called a doctor. You know, um, it hasn't, it doesn't really. There's no content there that it can, either improve the way, they found things. It's just, let me just be called a doctor. Just like if you go to the nursing now, you got a bunch of people running around with what is it called, a nursing practitioner degree, just because they want to be called doctor. And again, if you drill down, you see a bunch of African women or men have those stuff. So some of these universities, especially in UK and in California, they found a way to sell African bogus, to use stuff. So because they found that Africans love the title. Um, if you go to the origin, I think in case of Nigeria, the first, people here from Nkrumah. Nkrumah didn't have a PhD, but they said Dr. Nkrumah. I don't know how he ended up with that. Zeke, the first Nigerian president didn't have a degree, didn't have a PhD, but ended up, they called him doctor. So obviously, the early ones who started this independence and ran were part of the government thought the title was going to give them, credibility instead of getting down and building the country. Uh, how many American presidents have you had called doctor? I think the only American president that ever had a PhD was Woodrow Wilson. George Bush was the first American president to actually have what they call a master's degree, MBA. Obama never. Obama is, and doesn't have a PhD in law. Because when you pass your bar, you get a JD, Juris Doctor, but you're not a PhD in law. What Africans will love that. You see some Africans will, well, because they pass their bar, the state bar here, they want to call doctor. So for me, is that an inferiority complex? Is it what are you trying to prove? I mean, myself personally, I don't call people doctor. I tell them I'm a patient. You know, um, if you're my professor and you're teaching me a class and it makes sense, to be formally addressed, yes, but I don't go around. I said, doctor this, doctor that. Let's talk about what really matters, what makes a society survive. So that's the basis of me saying that. For anybody who wants to do it, go for it. I don't know if you have you read Obama's book, The Dream from My Father, or something like that.
Mhm.
In that, you remember when he went to Kenya and went to his father's grave, and before then, he went through his house and then he found a copy of his father's PhD from Harvard, in a dusty box, just in there. And he said, "Damn, I'm not going to end up like this." But what I'm saying, in my article, nobody inherits that. Have you ever seen anybody say, "Oh, I inherited my father's certificate"? I mean, you could inherit the certificate of investment if you did one, but not, master's degree he got, because those are individual stuff. So basically, for me, education has to help us as a race, to do better, to move forward, not just for the glamour. We put so much weight on the glamour of the certificate we get. And maybe because we are just, I don't know. But it's not like this is the first time black people are going to school. We've been going to school as long as most people have been going to school. How we end up with a whole bunch of that. And then in the African American community, you go look at a bunch of the pastors. What do they tell you, doctor? Because they went to theology school and they gave them some paper. I know a bunch of them, and I said, "What do you get your PhD in?" And then they have difficulty telling me. And I understand. I understand. I was like, "What's your PhD in?" So it does matter. then at the same time it doesn't matter. I lean on people who when I talk to them, I can sense, their logic, their reasoning, and the way they want to tackle stuff, as opposed to, they throw out this their doctoral and title, and then when you start talking with them, you start shaking their heads like, "What did you go to school actually? Does this really matter?" Um, but that's what they want to do. In fact, I knew a Cameroonian lady here. She got a PhD from one of these University of North Texas. Oh my God! I mean, she was bouncing around, and finally the school didn't want to give her that. And she said, "If you don't give me that, I'm going to sue you." The school finally said, "Okay, come here. Here it is. Okay." And then they awarded it to her, and they wouldn't even take her to teach a class in this school that gave her a PhD. You know what I mean? If you got a PhD, if you got a PhD from a university, they should be able to invite you in even as an assistant professor. But they would have said like, go somewhere else. You're not coming here. I mean, some of them are smart, some of them are good, but it's not necessary. PhD is not a degree that, when people say, "Oh, I got a PhD in finance," it's like, what were you doing all this year studying finance? My mom always told me, why would anybody spend so much time studying money? She said, I know who not to give money. I know how to keep my money. So somebody say a PhD in finance. And then you could see that with Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, PhD. And a whole bunch of these people that end up working for UN and World Bank, that's a pile of pay. That's what those institutions look for. Oh, PhD, PhD. You go with PhD in nothing. Well, they give you a job and they give you the business card of World Bank, and then you can go to African people and confuse them.
So my first, what I hear you say is you're not disparaging Africa. It's hard work to be able to get a PhD. I hope that is not what you're doing.
No. It's a path. If you choose it, go for it. But once you are given that paper, then what?
So that is the point. So your point is the degree that you receive, the PhD that you receive, should be something that is able to impact your community. And what you're seeing is, for most of the people who have graduated with these PhDs, they have not used them to impact their community. Am I?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, impacting community has to be, there's a need, and then there's the invitation and there's the interest. But even the individual person, when they get that, when you sit down with them to have a conversation, I mean, you have to be able to listen to what people are saying and formulate your own. I mean, what's the logic behind this? You started off telling me, your PhD, in fact, there's one African American lady that said, "Oh, your PhD is a terminal degree." I said, "Well, you have just, terminated your life. If that's how you want to describe that." She's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "How many people are going to employ you based on that?" I said, if you want to go to teaching, fine. But then even in that teaching arena, how many Africans, faculty members or tenured professors in some of these institutions? And then you go to African universities. If they rank 1,000 universities in the world, oftentimes the African universities don't even make the cut. You may have a mention or slight mention of something in South Africa, but no Nigerian university is ever made the cut, of the top 1,000 universities in the world. And then so when you have it, then it doesn't end there. You're supposed to start publishing papers, articulating solutions, and come to think about it, PhD don't want you to be original thinker, because you can't you have to reference something somebody may have done. You have to quote unquote and refer, and then you could chime in your own. But it's not like you're going to come up with an idea, and your professor or your faculty say, "Oh yeah, let's go for it." No. So they want you to have looked at a bunch of things somebody has done. Maybe when you now get into it, you can have your original thoughts. So PhD doesn't welcome original thinkers. I remember one time a friend of mine was dean of a business school based in St. Louis, and I wrote something, and he liked it. He said, man, I want to publish this, but I want to see some references. I said, hey, there's no reference to anything here. I just, me thinking. I went in and, threw in some stuff, just to make it look like, but he just, he just reminded me that, for PhD, you have to, so if you write a 50-page report, a dissertation for your PhD, maybe 50-page, 10 should be referencing what somebody else did. I'll talk about it. So that's it for me. I'm just saying, let's produce. If we're gonna have, if we're gonna have many people that have that, then let's do it. Let's have more production to back it up.
So Hansel, welcome. Hansel says, I feel uncomfortable with the statistics you provided. America has the most PhDs in the world, followed by Germany. What do you have to say about that?
Well, when I say America, I say Black people. I didn't say America. Just talking about Black. Then when you say Germany, India has more PhDs than anybody in the world. So I guess he didn't read that part of my statement. In fact, that's when I wrote. I studied a bunch of Indians that I know, and they came back and say, "Yeah, you're right."
Right. So it's important for us to again, for those who are just joining us, welcome, and just to give a context. There's a specific reference to Africans and PhDs, and it's not just, if you look at it again, it's talking about Africans. Even in the United States, there are many Africans who are having PhDs, and Okpa is not disparaging that. He's just talking about a particular thing in terms of impact. Okay, so again, the statistics are, if you are talking about statistics with respect to Africans in the United States, okay.
The Black people. You
right.
Look at it. Right. But if you look at the African Americans, African Americans have more PhDs than any other minority group in America. They have. This is a fact. All the Black universities, they award some kind of university. PhD in something. But go look at what they award PhD in. So how then you get that and you go to Black neighborhood, you don't see proof of it. Is what I'm saying. You're not solving problems. You're just getting glamour. And even African Americans have confirmed that. It's all about intimidation and who is this and who is that. And somehow they behave like, I earned it. They have to call me a doctor. I said, well, yeah, you're a doctor, but I'm a patient. You need me to survive. So the doctor thing, I'm just saying, have it, put it aside. If you're writing something that has to do with your subject and your title is needed, put it out there. But when you're dealing with the common man in your community, let what you are doing prove that you went to school or not didn't go to school.
So I just wanted to reference that article for you, Hansel. Do you want to check that out? I can read out the first part of it. It simply says, slightly more than 2 million immigrants from sub-Saharan Africa lived in the United States in 2018. While this population remains small, representing just 4.5% of the country's 44.7 million immigrants, it is a rapidly growing one. Okay, between 2010, the sub-Saharan increased by 52%, significantly outpacing the 12% growth for the overall foreign-born population during the period. It goes on somewhere to talk about, let me see further down. So if you go to a Census Bureau, you should be able to see that. But the article actually says something about African immigrants being one of the most highly educated group in the United States. You can go check that out. You can check out that article. But I think the point we are making here, again, is not to disparage PhDs. It's just to talk about the impact of it. And I'm asking, so Okpa, again, for full disclosure, your wife has a PhD in electrical.
No, I wouldn't have married her if she had that, because then she'd be redundant. She just has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I'm not going to marry any woman that has a PhD. That's too much time wasted going to school.
Okay, I thought your wife had a PhD in electrical engineering.
No, just bachelor's. She didn't even,
okay, I was going to press you on that, but What is the point? What is the point? I think the point you are making here more is how, first you touched on it in terms of we get into this, we spend this time getting these degrees that have, call it, little or no value. One of the things I want to press you on is about knowledge for its own sake. I mean, what is wrong with me studying all this, having all this knowledge in order to gain just that satisfaction for having known something? What is wrong
That's
with
fine.
that?
That's fine. But don't come making it look like I need to recognize that. I mean, if you wanna, there are career students. There are people. When I just came to America, there was this Nigerian guy. In fact, I know a friend. She went to pharmacy school and then she ended up going to medical school. And I mean, and I was like, wow, I mean, which one? You cannot practice both. You can't, for instance, if you're a medical doctor and you're also a pharmacist, you can't be doing both in Texas, for instance. I know that for a fact. So you choose a path. I think one of these things is the confusion about what do you end up doing. So you have these people bouncing up and down. How many immigrants, for instance, most Africans will come to this country and they're going to want to end up with some kind of degree. It's not even just the PhD, even the people that have the bachelor's and the master's. But you look at Asians, most Asians or Hispanic immigrants that came here, at a certain age, they are no longer they're not going back to school. They're going to study a trade. Their kids may go, but they're going to come in here if they're carpenters, mechanics, and blah, blah, blah. They get into it. Small shop owners. And then their kids, generations after that, they may go to school and come back and improve on their family business. But the father is in college, the parents are in college, and they all, see every graduation time. Don't you see all these articles that fly all over the place? Papa PhD, mama PhD, kids PhD are all lined up. But at the end of the day, in the morning, they're all waking up and going to go look for jobs somewhere. So why don't you employ yourself? If you have that much knowledge, employ yourself, pay yourself. So they get the PhD and they end up, looking for a job. And then
So
you have immigrants that don't do that, and they go back and then employing them. So I'm just saying, do it, but produce something with it. Okay, let that impact be felt with society moving forward, transforming, not just for the glamour. I mean, I'm sure you've been to Nigerian weddings or parties. When they do an introduction, what do you hear? Before you hear somebody's name, you might hear more PhDs and chiefs and SARS be mentioned before even, we say, what's that guy's name? But he's a doctor. and they even do this stuff, pharmacy. They try to create a title for every profession. One time I was an MC for an event in Dallas, that was 1993. Keep the screen this way because I want to see your face as I'm talking. and so that this particular Nigerian guy, he's got a PhD in political science, and I was like, that's not even a tough subject to have. But he likes to be called a doctor. And I just never called him a doctor. So I said, but anyway, whatever the case may be, as I'm not your student, I will never be your student. So we're having this event. I am the MC, and got to call people to the head table. So some of our guests didn't show up, and then we're trying to fill the vacant seat. And he was sitting in the audience. Some of his fan club members came to me. Hey man, this guy, we should put him up there. And I said, okay, yeah, I know him. So I got, I'm the MC, and I called his name. I said, hey, would you please join our guest at the head table? The guy didn't get up. He just sat there. And then people, his fan club members coming, hey, man, you should put a doctor in there. I said, oh, okay. I said, oh, by the way, this guy, his name is XYZ. However, he's a doctor. So, okay, doctor, would you now come join us? And he got up, but by that time, he made a fool of himself. It was not necessary. My name is Ejikoba. I don't need anything before them. Lambert and Baum. You don't need, you know what I mean? Before any other title, that's you. And at the time, so while I was doing that, I said, you know what? So that we don't offend anybody in this audience, any of our guests, please, you tell me what you studied. If you don't have, because the pharmacists want to be called farm, the architects want to be called arc, I mean, everybody try to carve something. The people who study Bible studies, I guess we call them Jesus or something. um, People who study geography, I say, hey, we call you Joe. So, psychology, psycho, come on, let's go. Let's just tell me what you think your whatever you studied title that is suitable for us, so we can call. You know what? That day, some people just say, "Man, we're not messing with Edward," because it's I've been to American place. I mean, I've been to events, except it's an academic forum. But if it's just some social stuff, and the people even tell you, let them just call me Lambert, man. Let's go, let's go. But Africans get hung up, on this, call me title. So you see a man couple coming to an event, like I always make fun with my wife. I say, I don't have any, I don't think even I went to school. So I say, my wife, you got to transfer the engineering parts to me. So it'll be like engineer Mrs. Because it doesn't sound right. I go Mr. and engineer Mrs. Africans do that sort of stuff. Nobody just say, hey, educate and drink your Parkham, it's just, we have to find a title. I even tell you, there was a time a Nigerian guy from my village was having a wedding in Dallas. His wife is PhD pharmacy and goes by doctor. And it happens that they had to set up a committee to say, how do we address them in their wedding?
A committee.
Yeah, are we gonna call this guy Mister and then the wife Doctor and Mrs. And even the guy settled for that crap. I was like, guys, cut that out. But he settled for it. So it comes to a point where certain things just happen because we allow it. Why don't you just say no? We don't need it. Sorry, my name is X. My wife's name is X. That's it. But Africans will go farm. I mean, you've seen it. They write their name. They say farm, PHARM, farm, and then even there's they've not put D, farm D as to be head doctor. I said, look, don't glorify in Africa, in Cameroon, in Nigeria. If you work there, you call you chemist. It's not dispenser. You just go in there. If you have codeine, you go. It's just in America that a pharmacist is not a big deal. But in Africa, they are, where we don't need prescription to buy anything. You buy it from a store, a corner store. So now they come to America. And they're all, because, healthcare industry is a big business here. They're all pharmacists, are all doctors. I said, all you are is a drug dispenser. A doctor writes a prescription, they come to you, and then you dispense it. So what's the
deal?
What's the deal? But they all assert their own presence. We are the big boy, the big boy. I said, okay, that's fine. So I'm just saying, let education help the Black race transform. Let education help us gain respect among other races, as opposed to us. And when they go to other people, they don't demand them to call them doctor. The Nigerian will get mad at me for not calling him doctor, but when you see a white man, you don't say a thing. You just keep quiet. I said, why are you competing with me? Tell the white man to call you doctor.
Right. So again, I guess now we're on the half-hour mark. Just those who are watching, welcome to the show. We are talking about Africans and PhDs waste. And I think one area where you really want to see this is in politics, where a lot of the politicians in our countries are people who have these PhDs. And surprisingly, these people who have learned or supposedly learned a lot, they are the ones who have, thrown our countries into such mess. Every one of them, political science department, wherever you see them, PhDs all over, they're just a mess.
Well, Lambert, you go look at the faculty, the cabinet of any federal, Nigeria, for instance. You will have more PhD as cabinet level members or doctors than you might even find in the faculty of any particular university, because it has become what you are recruited on the basis of. It was such a bad at culture. In 1999, the first speaker of Nigeria House of Assembly, was kicked out when they found out that he didn't even have the thing, what he said he did have. I mean, the guy could have made an excellent speaker, but he had to boost his ego. I mean, when Jonathan was in office, they would say, Doctor, Professor, good luck. I was like, man, you have achieved a title most people will never have in their life. In the whole world, there are less than 200 people that have a political title of president. Why do you have to attach PhD to it? Why do you have to attach doctor to it? Just President Jonathan, President Obasanjo, President whatever. Why do you have to now go in and, as if you are competing for relevance, you have to put PhD? But that's what you see. That's what you see. So and then some people are so, I don't know. I don't want to use the word I want to use, but you can imagine what I'm thinking. But you say professor, doctor, professor. Choose. For you to be a professor, obviously you have to have a PhD. So why do you have to say doctor, professor? Why can't you just choose one? You're a professor. And then you find out a lot of them are not even tenured professors. Just for the mere fact they have PhD, you become an assistant professor in anywhere. You teach in a community college or you teach in a university. Are you tenured? So they do these things, and then they don't even follow it through writing papers, getting critically, reviewed by their peers. They just come to my own party and want to, dictate to me, hey man, you gotta call me PhD. I said, no, get out of my house. Yeah, I'm calling you PhD. I'm not calling you doctor. So the whole thing is the attachment, how they believe this makes them relevant. It doesn't make you relevant. What makes you relevant is, what you do and what that becomes useful in moving people forward. But you're going to get a PhD in Igbo tradition. Oh, no, excuse me. Some people have a PhD in Igbo culture. Or Yoruba culture. I was like, okay, or Yoruba language. I said, what has that got to do with anything?
Well, that's a cultural thing, but I think that speaks to Divine's question. Welcome, Divine Nchamukong, journalist, runs a show. You have been on the show. He says, how do you measure the impact of a PhD? How is a lecturer in the Faculty of English not impacting?
I don't know what answer he's expecting. I mean, everybody's impacting. All I'm just saying that you can teach English without having to have a PhD to teach it. Right? I mean, if yes, of course, in the college college environment, if the professor wants that, fine. But in the common world, in the world you and I live in on a daily basis, I think the emphasis that we Africans or Black people want to put on title is what I'm saying is not relevant. My professor, my professor from University of North Texas, real estate, one of the very few people in the state of Texas that have a PhD in real estate, because he's Bain. His name is Bain. He said, Edward, call me Bain. He never said that Dr. Bain. Except when he writes, and then he doesn't even say Dr. Bain. He just said, John Bain, PhD. That's it. But he doesn't go around doctor, professor. If you call him that, he say, "Well, no, call me Bain." His name, last name, Bain.
Yeah, I know. I had a similar experience with my teacher, my lecturer, my professor at the Catholic University, who has a PhD in philosophy. What happened with him was, years after we had graduated, we met at a conference, and I was referring to him as doctor. I kept insisting on that, and he told me that, no, if you want to be my friend, you're going to address me by my name. My name is Walker. Call me Walker. Okay? And it's kind of stunning, but I guess the point again is, and maybe this addresses Divine's thing, is just that there is an excess in the attention that we pay to these titles.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's very excessive.
Yeah, so again, there's no problem with somebody having a PhD, but again, what is the use? And the reason why I chose on this topic today was because I think we all need to start looking at this from the angle of I mean, what is the PhD going to do for me? How is that going to change? How is that going to help me get to where I want to be? Because I think that, again, besides just studying for the sake of studying, okay, which is a good thing, many of us are rushing into this thinking that these things are going to be the life changers. And we are seeing here that there are many people in America who do not have a PhD, but they are making it excellent. Why the mad rush for this PhD?
Well, I mean, in fact, my professor, I say professor because I met him when I was in school. He said, Edward, the A students always end up working for the C students. I mean, Steve Jobs, okay? The founder of Apple, Michael Dell, the guy over at Facebook. I mean, there are many, many examples of people who pursue. Okay, what is his name? The guy now who is getting divorced from his wife, Bill Gates.
Yes.
Okay, when he was at Harvard, he was a Harvard student. Okay, and this thing about Microsoft came to him, and he quit, and he went in and perfected it. And of course, he brought in people. He didn't do it himself. He was able. He said, "Hey, I needed people." Okay, Lambert. If Bill Gates was a Nigerian, he will not get out of Harvard because he wants to end up a professor of computer science. He will say, "I wrote the code. I did all that stuff at the end." But this guy jumped. And now people are studying what somebody who dropped out of Harvard is doing. People are writing papers on the Microsoft, success or lack of whatever that is. So it tells you when you have the talent. When the pyramid was built, when the Vatican was built, when a whole lot of things in the world was built, a lot of people they didn't even have anything like engineers. They just said talent, and they went for it. So I'm saying, okay, we go back to the various African countries. What monument, man-made, stands today? They'll say, "Oh, people built." If you go look at any of our national buildings, you find out Africans go around and say, "Oh, PhD in architecture," but a whole bunch of them could even design a simple thing. A lot of it where people they always hire the outside people to come and get it done. So you have people that has a PhD in civil engineering, and then what? You can't build roads or even advice on roads. What needs to happen. So where's the productive gain because of these additional titles we had is what I'm saying. What is the gain? I mean, I don't care for him. What is it, Dangote? But then, he's the richest black man. I don't even think he finished high school. But that's the story of people who produce. So you might as well go sit in a classroom and become a professional student, or you just get out there in the world and then become somebody who will do something that a whole bunch of people will like say, "Wow, this is impacting my life in the way that I want it." So I'm just saying, drop the title.
So it's interesting that Divine Nchamukong, again, Divine is the host on the Chat Night Africa. It's a show that comes up, a weekly show, Fridays and Sundays generally, but there are also specials. Divine had actually written a commentary about this topic, and that was March 31st. He says, he was referring to a professor, a Cameroonian, Professor Abegli Zama. By all accounts, is an accomplished academic and professional. Not only is he a professor of heart surgery at Harvard University, he has successfully done well over 10,000 heart surgeries in the United States, South America, Asia, and Africa, many for no pay. One would think that this colossus of knowledge and philanthropy would go around choking out the oxygen from others with his trail of achievements and alumni. His sheer simplicity, to put it mildly, is electrocuting. He had called him out for a show. He came to a show and had a great time. Here's the opposite of Professor Zama. I got another guest last year whose name I won't disclose. Each time I referred to her as Mrs. This instead, she had to remind him that, hey, you are forgetting the professor piece. He says, I have a friend in Maryland who's constantly hired to MC fundraisers. That's Gui Funlon. This guy is a genius at inflating egos to get folks deep into their pockets. There lies the problem. Where is our focus? Accomplishment or deification of titles? In the United States, the emphasis is on performance when interviewing for a job. And that is because titles in themselves mean nothing, especially when they point to nothing beyond. Quite the contrary in Africa. And so we have engineers expecting to sit behind polished mahogany desks instead of being in the field using their knowledge to make a difference in the lives of citizens. I think that's the point you're making. And Divine, thank you. I'm going to put that up again. The point is simple. We glamorize too much of our titles when there's nothing to show for it. And I think recently, again, the point has been there was always something about the average American. In order to make it in the United States, you need to have a college education, a college degree. That seems to have gone out of fashion, isn't it?
Oh no. In fact, I won't mention their name now. A lot of companies are looking for those practical thinkers. People who going through training are going to end up producing certain things. Because again, before, you go back, how long has formal education existed? I mean, America is 1636 in terms of Harvard, but even as long as they have been here, it's not like 50% Americans have college degree. It's not. You go to England, where Oxford and some other universities. You go to Sweden, University of Uppsala and all of that. But the Swedish people are not all that. You know what I mean? They are not more on the paper part of it. They are more on the technical part of it. It's the Africans that don't have the technical, just wants the paper. They want the paper because it's glamorous. I remember, maybe they still do it, but they don't do it now. But back before I came to America, if an African went overseas and got a PhD, I mean, when he coming back home, there are people, his village people are at the airport dancing.
But of course, what do you think?
To welcome him. In fact, at that time, immediately, there's a government job waiting for him, and what they call GRA and all of that. And then all of a sudden, he's doctor. He could have just studied some crappy subject like political science, or philosophy, and then boom, 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 he's a doctor. I mean, Zeke didn't study anything that is academically challenging. It's not like, a neurosurgeon or anything. I mean, like, whatever it is, just like Nkrumah. But they came back, oh, doctor. But man, look at the country they started. Look at how messy it is, because the focus was on their title and not on the job. Nkrumah is a Dr. Nkrumah. He had no PhD. But somehow, I don't know, even if, it's just like me, like I go around now Admiral because, I was commissioned an Admiral in Texas Navy. I mean, I don't use that. You could read it in my profile if I choose to put it in there. But I'm not, I don't go around. Or my father was a chief. And then, because I'm the first son, I'm supposed to. That's like, no, that's not for me. Know me by what I do, not by the title attached to to my name. And
yeah,
and I think that's the gist of my thing.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. But again, Sir Okpa, I mean, we have young people who are coming up. And I think I've asked you before, I mean, just to put this in context, I know that currently we are moving towards a skills-based economy, isn't it? You need to be skillful in something. It's not so much the qualification. And I can say this because I see many Africans getting into IT, for example. They're learning the trade, getting into the hands-on and doing well, exceptionally well. But again, we are saying here that we need to rethink the philosophy behind titles.
Yes, in fact, okay, yeah, you look at a bunch of, I guess part of the British people keeping Africans, colonized, even when they have decolonized them, is the thing that the Queen gets, the knighthood. you are knighted by the queen, so go around Sir HK Okpa, Sir that. So some people don't get that, so they go to some crappy Catholic things, the night of Columbus, and and they not come about, oh, sir. I was like, shoot, what was that all about? What was this business? Because of Night of Columbus? Because back then they called them Night of the British something. When you get that, they give you some. But that's a colonial thing. That's part of it, of keeping you. Remember, America was once colonized.
Mm-hmm.
America was once colonized,
The
and they just like forget you. We're not adopting a whole bunch of things you are doing, because that's why we left. So the African is the one that still want to copy after the person who they are saying colonized them. There are a lot of Americans that have been knighted, but shoot, they don't even go around. What is his name? Colin Powell was knighted. Well, he don't go around Sir Colin Powell. You may have this Beatle guy, John, whatever his name is, the one I think is gay, because he's British, he's still gay. But a lot of people forget
Elton John.
Elton John, so I'm just saying, it comes to a point where you said, I'll acknowledge the recognition, but I'm not going to append it to my name. And, it's more important to be productive, and useful to the society than, going around and throwing out, title and you're a nuisance. When I hosted, what is his name? Wolo Shoyinka in 1994 in Dallas. I picked him up from the airport, took him to meeting, took him back. So I had opportunities, and I tried to call him Prof. He said, "No, call me Wolo." That's. I mean, of course, he may do it. He may have other people do it, because I was trying to test him. Maybe he knew about me that I was like. He's like, no, keep it on first name basis. We good. I mean, that's how I spent time with him. He didn't say, "Oh, have you ever read Nigerian?" Even when they describe Nigerian head of state, they start to say Commander in Chief, former Brigadier General, President. I was like, "Oh my God, are you President Buhari?" Why do you have to add General?
So, Divine, I think it's a very important question. What drives this African mindset of worshipping titles? What do you think is
complex?
Great. I think that's the point, Divine. I think it's a complex issue. The vestiges of colonialism, and then in the United States mixed with slavery and racism, we're suffering from all those put together. And I think it's also a fruit of the system, the education system we grew up in, because it's a kind of system that glamorized that success. When you reach that pinnacle, that is what is considered a success. You have 11 ordinary level and 5 A level, then you are the best, isn't it? I think it's that mindset. And again, that brings me to this question about the system of education. Let's circle back to the continent, because I believe that part of the issue with respect to Divine's question has been that our education systems have been such that they have not served our communities. They have made us to chase these degrees. That is why you go to a country like Cameroon, you have a bunch of people who have graduated with degrees, and they are waiting for the government to come and give them a job. And all they're complaining about is the government is not giving them jobs, which is the point you made at the end of your beautiful write-up. What do you think needs to change? How do we change that system? What do we need to do?
I mean, the system doesn't change. You change the system, because the system you are in is the system you created. So, if all these years, all you have been doing is looking for somebody to give you a job. You're in your 30s, in your 40s, you never even thought about doing something for yourself. All of a sudden, you're blaming the society. What you done? Lambert, okay, if the average lifespan of a Black person or, an African is 60-something years, isn't that what they throw out there? Okay, and you spent a good part of your life up until you're 30, you still figuring out, education, and then you get into the job. By the time you're 40, you're still trying to figure things out. How much is left? So the physical useful life of somebody is wasted as they're chasing this paper. When when a lot of people start in their 20s, early 20s. I mean, and while they are in it, they could, I mean, look, you get more going for training and in-service courses and than you go sit in a classroom and somebody every day comes in and tell you, okay, let's read from chapter 1 to chapter 2. And then you come back, we test you from 1 to 2. If you do well, we say, okay, go for 3 to 4. I mean, so you're programmed that way. But if you're somebody who you throw your mind open and you want to see what the world is, you could master a whole bunch of stuff. And that is what's going to make you an all-rounder, not just basically somebody who is going to say, oh, well, this is my field. And, I get this comment. Sometimes I'm talking economics. So somebody's like, hey, man, you're a real estate person. I was like, oh, you just put me in a box. I said, oh, ask my wife. People always ask me, why am I not a lawyer? So I don't have the patience to go sit in a classroom and listen to anybody tell me what to do. So I'm just going to figure it out, But it's just that common comment, or you're talking about, just to understand. Remember, the most important thing is solution. If there's a problem, what can you say or do to say, hey, this is the direction we can go? It could be a temporary measure, but it also can be permanent. But a lot of these people are not programmed to think creatively or innovatively or begin to, recognize what is causing this whole problem. They just fall back on their whatever, book. No, it's real life. The problem about certain things can change because of where you are, even though the solution may have been prescribed. For instance, being a doctor is science, is it not? It's science. Because if somebody has an appendicitis, you don't start cutting them from the head down. You go straight to where their appendicitis is, and boom, So if you learn how to do that in any part of the world, you have learned how to do it. Okay, because it's science. Just like flying an airplane, it's science. But when it comes to how do you govern your people to get the best out of them, it's not how do you deal with the attitude in this particular geography. What sort of law or framework do you have to come up with? You don't have to have a PhD in political science to come up with that. You just look at, okay, because individuals are very different. So how do you come up with law that at least 90% or 95% of us are going to agree with? Because you cannot address each individual situation. And that's the solution. Another political science, so if a Nigerian study political science in Russia, and then another one studied in the US or UK or wherever else, it's totally different ways they approach it based on their own situation. So you have to forget all of that and see what have you learned that can help you come up with something for this new place you are in. And not to start, oh, well, do it this way, that's the Russian way, do it that way, the American way. How about the Cameroonian way? How do you now get Cameroonians to see there's a need for laws, there's a need for accountability, there's a need for this, so that we can have a society. The things about the engineering, the science, I don't get excited about somebody being an engineer because it's science. You can learn that any time. How to design a bridge and make it, structurally strong is a science. So let's go on productivity that draws from both the ones who went to school and the ones who didn't go to school. Now, what is this guy talking about?
So again, the point you make is good. And Jude is a man who wears his PhD on his sleeve or holds his friends hostage to read excerpts of his dissertation to them is using his PhD as a refuge for his emptiness. And that's true. He's talking from experience. He knows what he's saying there. But so if somebody came to you that they are applying for a PhD, what advice?
I will ask them, what's your exit plan? What's this going to do? I say, you're going to be an academia? I mean, you want to end up in what is it called? You want to go teaching? Or you just want to get a title you think is going to get you a job, because it's not going to get you a job. Except you want to end up like UN or World Bank. where they find these people who cannot produce, and they give them title and say, now go to Africa and teach them how to do something. Because a bunch of PhD people go to work, in those agencies. But if it's like, hey, tell me what you want to do, Lambert, when I get to US, my education was already in Nigeria, college educated, okay? I learned 1 + 1. I was very confident in what I knew. I was just looking for somebody to ask me a question on what I knew. And the first guy who gave me a job in real estate tested me. So I went because this particular guy I was telling you, Ben, had referred me to him, to consider me. He said, hey, this guy has potential. See, if he can do anything. So I came in, I gave him a business card. The guy wrote his, reference thing on. As soon as I gave him that, he said, okay, I'm going to give you this thing to go read. You sketch it, survey. When you get a survey is descriptive, bearings, these degrees, this, that, and then you come back, you give you the shape of the land. So he said, okay, here's that. Go read it, sketch what you read, and come back and let me see if I can hire you. I said, okay, fine. When I was in college in Nigeria, I took land surveying course. And I'm a good geography student, so I know how to read bearing, north, east, southwest, this, that. So he gave me, I just sat down 5 minutes or less, boom, I came back and I gave it to him. He said, where did you learn that from? I said, Nigeria. He said, you hired. Right there. He never asked me, you have a PhD? What was your back? He said, boom, you hired. And I was like, huh? That's it? He said, you hired. Then he's never seen anybody do it the way I have done it. Understand what this is. Because in the first job I had as a real estate person wasn't a broker. I became a broker when I had my own license. But I wanted to understand the real estate research, information about real estate. And that was the platform that I get in to be able to read, deed transactions and figure out what is the shape of land they're talking about, where street is it on, blah, blah, blah. Is that a commercial or residential? And that gave me that. So I can find any information. And then to even buttress my position, I would take my father's business card, because my father had a real estate company in Nigeria. I would take it along for my interview. So that I didn't want to, answer a whole bunch of questions. So I always turn the interview into conversation. So when I come in, okay, Mr. Okpa, you're applying for this job. Can you guys tell me, how you got in? How you got into this real estate stuff? And I said, if you don't mind, can I tell you? And I will show them my father's business card from Nigeria. Boom. It's over. Your dad was in real estate? And African real estate is like a Bible. Everything they did, they put it in that business. So if you read my father's business card, everything in real estate, developer, appraiser, boom, 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 boom. Maybe you have to really take time to read this stuff. So I will hand it. And they were like, really? Oh, tell us how the real estate is done in Nigeria. All of a sudden, they forget the interview. It was now conversation because I'm telling a story. And they all used to hire me, which was very few people, because, I've been self-employed since 1990. But very few people take interest. Once I showed, even now, when people come to my house, it's because I framed my father's business card with mine, like father, like son. That's my story. So I don't go, putting anything. People ask me, hey, what did you study? I said, I don't remember. I said, I went to school. I don't even remember what I studied. But it's knowledge for me. It's learning for me. It's being able to provide a solution if you give me opportunity for what we're trying to do. The PhD part, I'm happy for people who have it. But if, like your question, if you want to do something for your life, ask yourself, what do you want to do with this? Because America is not going to hire you because of your PhD, except you're going to go teach. But if you want to get into the industry, then, how do you get into the industry?
Well, that's going to be my last question, but Divine took it from me. So how do you respond to those with PhDs who are likely to say you are being critical because you don't have one?
Any degree I have is the one I don't need. Any degree I don't have is the one I don't need. I know what I need in my life. So PhD is not one of them. you know, a whole bunch of papers is not one of them. I don't need those. You know what I mean? And that's where the Africans miss it. What do you need? The Africans go to school for what they want, not exactly for what they need. That's why they keep chasing this paper. You know, I mean, you see their name and then you have so many letters after them that is like another sentence going down the street, because they go to school for want, not need. The school I went is what I wanted. So PhD, heck no. Even if you pay me to go take it, I'm not taking it. I'm academically strong. I can I can take anything that I want, but I don't need it. I don't want it. In fact, let me tell you, Lambert, before we go, Texas Women's University, there was this Indian guy, professor there, Michael Razingani. So he heard me speak and he wants me, from time to time, he invited me to come and talk to his class about stuff. So one day he said, hey, man, I want you to come teach a class. I want you to be an adjutant professor and stuff. And I was like, no, I don't want to be. I don't want to go home and prepare a lesson. But it's like, man, you are so knowledgeable. Students like you because you break things down for them. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I said, I can come in and have conversation with students, but not to come and give them, I said, I can explain any principle, tell me what the principle is in the subject that I know, I will break it down. For me, it is the ability to have somebody understand. That is the best way. African universities are lecture universities. They are not teaching universities. Because the lecturer comes in and he tells you, how many times do you have interaction with your lecturer in African university? Or if they say something, you come back with a counter or try to like, hey, well, how about that? They say, I'm the one teaching you or lecturing you. That's why they call them lecturers, okay? Lecture, not teaching. American universities, I went to Harvard in my graduate program, is an interactive program. The professor comes in even telling you, look, man, I don't know it all. I'm just going to share my experience with you, and then we open it for discussion. But in Africa, now they want to tell you, they say, we are the waterfall. We are the source of this time. And you don't really challenge them. And finally, when I was at University of North Texas, because I told you I already studied in Nigeria. I came here, I was taking some courses just because I wanted to understand the difference between the Nigerian and the US. Do you know one day one of my professors called me and said, hey man, stop coming to class. I said, what? He said, stop coming. You know this, just tell me what grade do you want. I told him the grade I want. He said, I will check you off as attending for the semester. And I was like, oh, really? So all I need to do is challenge these people, and then I get the grade I want. And I did it. 1 year. No, because look, I'm not that student. I read. So you come up with something, I always say, okay, if I agree with you, I agree with you. But if I don't agree with you, I will say you why I don't. And usually they find it very interesting because I'm engaging. No, a good question. I will not scrap.
That's a question for Divine. Thank you, by the way.
Just hang on.
I really want to thank let me use my pidgin expression, my big brother, Divine Nchamukong. And he's always here with us for this when he has the moment. I want to thank him for always coming and for being very active. And I invite people to check out his, he has a very good show, it comes up every week, like I just said. chatnightafrica.net. chatnightafrica.net.
Is he back from Cameroon? Because I think he went to
Yes.
I saw him with like a cattleman with something, some cattle and stuff. Obviously, he's a ranchman. But back to this question. If I were a Nigerian president, here's what my members of my cabinet will not do. They will not put academic title on their business card. It will strictly be your name, Minister of what? No PhD, no master's, no nothing academic. That's it. And if you don't want it, if you insist on putting it, then you don't want the job because I'm the president. You serve at my pleasure. So that's one thing I will kill. Nobody will use academic title. And in fact, you will not even put your traditional title on. Because sometimes the Nigerians do it. They pick that and they say, the Igwe one of their tiny freaking stupid village. You wouldn't put that on anything. You just strictly be your name and the ministry. That's it. Because me as president will not go doctor, chief, professor. No, just president. And I'll even scrap your excellency because nothing is excellent about what they do. So it will just be strictly Mr. President. That's how you change the system.
Oh, man, thank you very much. And thank you, Divine. He says he has been driving from Silver Spring to Germantown, and that's a distance listening to this. So thank you very much. And I wanted to end on this personal note because I think many people think that some of us have become a disgrace to education. I went to Columbia University. Columbia University is an Ivy League university, and I studied in the best journalism school. Okay, but people think that because I don't have a job in journalism and this show that I'm doing is just a pastime, they think that some of us are a disgrace to education. And I think that's the point you were making. I love the point you made. What is your exit plan? Okay, when you get this degree, what is your exit plan? And I believe that is a serious question. It is not just about piling the degrees, it's also about what is the exit plan?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Many people who are succeeding, doing it big time without having any of these accolades attached to their names. Yes,
you just like you say, you study journalism, right? What people are going to remember you by is how you write your stories or the facts behind your stories, and as opposed to the title behind it. If you're going to go teach it, you could pick a course and teach. But the journalist has to be able to be a good communicator and be able to, hey, if I'm writing this, have you ever read articles written by Nigerian journalists? In fact, by the time I'm done with the first introduction, I am done. It's headache. Because if you're talking about the president, by the time they get to what it is, they would have written all his names and different manner. Instead of just say President Buhari said, they say Chief, the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General blah, blah, blah. Come on, he's president. All these other 5 lines are irrelevant. Get to it.
And I like the point you make, Divine, because most of the great journalists in the United States did not even go to journalism school. Okay, They did not. They have degrees in other things, and it's a great lesson. If you look at the people who impact our society, they don't have those terminal degrees. Again, the point of the show was not to castigate those who have the degrees. That's not the point we're making here. The point we're trying to make is we are infatuated, we Africans, African immigrants, we are infatuated with these titles, PhDs or whatever.
And then, like I said, the blood part of it that I say blood don't lie, because the people that came before us are still caught up in that doctors that are doctor. The African Americans, it's a big deal for them. So, have you ever seen a pastor that doesn't say doctor? But how come, Jesus hasn't visited their neighborhood and turned things around? They still go every Sunday, doctor. So even centuries of separation has not distinguished us, because we are still copying the same thing everybody else is copying. So go for yourself. I always say KYO. You know what that is?
Knock yourself out.
Yes. Bury yourself in the university. Pile up on all the degrees you want to get out of them. And then I'm going to close on this. You know how they say satisfaction, in America says satisfaction guaranteed or your money back.
Yes.
You go do a survey on 100 Africans that have PhD and said, how many of you are satisfied with your life outcome? And can you go back to the university that gave you those and ask for your money back? They will rather take the money back. It's like, give me all the school fees. And you can have this, because there's no satisfaction. That's why they keep going around, trying to throw their weight. So that's the joke for the day. But, you can make everybody understand things. Even if you explain it, you can make them understand it. The point is, we have to be a people that get away from this obsession about title. and then get into what can we do for our community, our country, our society, recognizing the various resources within us. You know, most of these things, okay, if you're knowledgeable, we'll bring you in. America will say he's knowledgeable or she's knowledgeable. That being knowledgeable may have nothing to do with you, how many other papers before after your name you have. Say, but that you're knowledgeable or you're intelligent. So let's begin to promote those things that actually other people are looking for. Knowledgeable, dependability, credibility, integrity. I mean, you could have PhD and a whole lot of Africans, but they have no integrity. That's why the continent is the way it is. But they have the education, but there's no integrity. I mean, I'll send you what Warren Christopher. I mean, not what Christopher. What is his name? Warren Buffett.
Yes.
3 things. I think you were the one that said it to me or something. 3 things men look. People are look for. Credibility, intelligence, and integrity. Because that's a key point, right? The integrity of the individual. A whole bunch of people could go to school. I mean, nobody gets a degree in integrity. You have to have it, or you don't have it. So thank you for having me. I'm out of here. We won't be able to do next week show because I'll be in Nigeria. My baby sister passed away, so
right.
I am going to go there and give her honors because I'm her brother and she wasn't married, so I'm just gonna go make sure she gets the honors. So I'll be back when I get back in 20, whatever that is, 20 something. Then we can continue, and then I have another great announcement because I'm going to Ghana.
Oh wow!
After that, for something that is big.
Big. Okay. I'll be waiting for it. So
we're going to Ghana. We're going to Ghana. I have a client that retained me to help him do something. So now we are on our way to Ghana, and it's going to be something again that when it takes root and become what we think it's going to be, I take pride in doing it. And I didn't do it because I have a PhD. I did it because I have a vision. And my clients recognize my ability to solve problems for them, and that's where we're going. End of story.
So thank you very much, Okpa. Thank you very much, Divine. Divine says he truly loved the broadcast. Thank you all for watching. And again, it's been a great evening. I thank you. I've learned a lot. If you are considering doing, if you consider that you're going to do a PhD, please rethink that. What somebody came in, Emmanuel, in a capitalist system where labor is a product, why don't you look at it from the angle that Africans are obsessed with degrees because they want to compete in the labor market? That's a great question, Emmanuel. I just believe that the problem is not the competition. There are many people in that labor market, we talked about it, who do not have PhDs, very many of them. And I believe that what you're saying is at the back of the minds of many of us. We think that the only way to compete is by getting those terminal degrees.
Yeah.
But there are many other things we can do and still compete in that market. But
it's how you present yourself. I mean, even like in financial world, I mean, of course, there are certain licenses of certain profession that demand certain things. But that's what you got to do. And on the job, remember, America is one country that trains you. When they hire you, they're going to train you. Have you ever seen anybody that is hired and they didn't go to training? They still train you. This is the corporate way. This is how we do things over here. So the education has to be good enough to let you understand what you're going to do, as opposed to just piling up on it, and at the end you want everybody to put aside everybody and put you on top. Africans think that if they have PhD, the way Africans think, the PhD people should make more money than PhD attempted, then the master's degree, the master's degree attempted, then bachelor's attempted. That's just what they think. I had a Nigerian come to my house one day and say, man, AGK, you are so this, you got to go get a PhD. I said, for what? He said, oh, in Nigeria. I said, I'm not coming to Nigeria. I said, I will not live over there again. I will never live there again. I'm done. I can visit. But if I do, and I'm hiring you, you say, oh, because I don't have a PhD, I'll fire you because you're working for me. I said, I'll fire you. So why do I have to? But you see their mentality. Oh, Africans will have a problem. I bet you in Cameroon, you will not find a PhD holder working for somebody who doesn't have one. because it's an ego thing now for them. But they come to America, they go work for a company that whose founder dropped out of college.
That's true.
Yeah.
So again, at the beginning of the program, we said we're not generalizing. There are always exceptions to these things. But the point we wanted to make here is, if you want a PhD,
go for it.
KYO, isn't it? Knock yourself over.
Knock yourself out.
Yes, to borrow your expression. But I really believe that it is time for us to rethink. Again, those programs are not cheap, isn't it? You get, and the point you made towards the last but one point, many of them don't have the satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yes, and they are not willing. If they had a way, they would have gone back. But again, I don't want to keep us going. Thank you very much. Let's keep thinking through. And I wish you a very safe journey. I'm sure we're going to text back and forth. And we wish your family a good time. May your sister's soul rest in peace. We'll see you when you come back. I'm waiting for the announcement about Ghana. Thank you all for coming in. Have a good evening.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.